I'll try and make a little bit of flooring if I can get everything going, hopefully. Well, it just depends on how good a luck I have. Good all it is anymore for me.
I've been a customer at Handley Lumber for probably close to 40 years, maybe a little bit longer. Going to Handley Lumber is probably different for us just because we have been coming here so long. We've certainly established relationships with the people that are working here. Certainly the ownership has changed a little bit throughout time with generational people taking over. And that sense of trust and working relationship just keeps transferring down through the generations.
This is it. First lift truck at Handley Lumber.
The history and the evolution of Handley Lumber was that my great-grandfather, Joe Handley, was a pioneer that started out timbering and putting livestock onto the lands that he cleared. He had mills at Crystal Lake and Burnt River. And as the market sort of developed later on to prefer dressed lumber, he purchased this facility that we're in today, which at the time was a carriage works. My great-grandfather Joe ran the company until he passed away in 1945, at which time the company changed hands to his wife, Maddie, and she ran it briefly until control could easily be passed along to her sons, John and my grandfather, Ray. John ran the mill in Burnt River, and my grandfather was deployed here to run the mill in Fenelon Falls. I didn't know Ray Handley, the legend, I just knew him as Grandpa. So I have heard a lot of the lore and a lot of the stories. To me, he was just a very nice, faithful man. He went to church every Sunday and worked very hard in his business and with his cattle. I don't have any of the grandiose stories that lots of people do, mostly because I didn't interact with him very much within this setting. It was more cattle or his garden or around the dining room table.
Mr. and Mrs. Handley treated me more like a son than anything. Where my house is built, that was their property. They sold me the land to build my house. I did not have to take a mortgage. Mr. Handley sold me all the materials. I paid him so much a month off. I asked him one time, we aren't that busy in the wintertime. Can I get laid off to work on my house? He said, no. If you don't want to come to work that day to work in your house, just phone and tell me. You'd still get the full paycheck. Like he wouldn't dock you. But he was like that way with a lot of people that wanted, younger people that wanted to build a house. He would give them more or less, I call it, a layaway plan. A lot of people don't realize how generous he was.
If you were to describe Ray Handley in a phrase, what would it be? I'm not sure one phrase would be sufficient. Again, my experience with him was just as my grandpa, always kind and always looking out for us and always planning the next adventure. He passed away in 1999, and his 4 sons took over from him, Ken, Joe, David, and Bill. And the business evolved. It was less timbering and sawing and became more of a retail operation. The operations also moved more centrally to Fenelon Falls rather than out of Burnt River. But the business responded to market changes and the evolution around how homes were built and the materials that were needed for that. So we went from being almost strictly lumber and trim and millwork and evolved into more modern materials.
Why, it's still here. I guess we didn't know enough to do something else.
They operated the company then until 2008 when my brother Tim and I took over from them. Dad made a commitment to us to stay on for 5 years to help in that transition. And as you've plainly seen, that 5 years continues to roll over, and lucky for me because he continues the same dedication to the company that he's always had since his youth. And to my benefit, he keeps coming in, and I hope he does until he can't anymore.
Ken's very much a chip off the old block, for sure. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I think when you're talking to Ken, you'll soon know who Ken Handley is within the first couple sentences.
Do you remember the fire that happened in 1992?
Yeah.
Could you tell us what happened then?
Well, it burned down.
Rumors had it you could see the smoke all the way to Omimi, because everything was just like a big chimney inside that steel building, and the trim, and that was dry, it just was up just like nothing. It seemed like 15 minutes and it was all over. Nobody got hurt, thank God.
Clark Watson gave us a trailer to work out of. I worked out of that pretty well for a year, right? Wasn't very handy, but kept us going.
Business sort of didn't stop. Like it just kept moving. Like you didn't, sure it was more difficult, but you had to carry on.
I don't think that you could talk about Handley Lumber without talking about characters like Chester Godwin or Eric Watson.
G'day, Paul.
Hey, how are you?
Good, and you? How are you now?
Those long-term, dedicated individuals who have really helped keep us going and also helped keep the customers coming back.
As soon as I graduated in June of '72, Mr. Handley offered me a job and I took it. Ralph Watson, I think 1937, which was my dad. And then he came across this one, which is Gladys Godwin, which is my mother. And that is 1932 when that was taken. So that's before they were married, which I had no idea really that both of them did work for the Handley company until I saw these checks.
If you didn't have customers, you wouldn't have a business. We had some good customers.
I think it's important to recognize that my success, which I'm very grateful for, has been built on the success of those generations and the good stewardship of those people that came before me. If it wasn't for my great-grandfather and my grandfather and the generation before me that has created the business and stewarded it along, there wouldn't be anything left for me. So I'm pretty lucky to have the support of my family that I have had and the good management that came before me.